shining through the dark, past 1,000 stars. We have come this far. Who we are is just a dream.
The Mitsubishi Lancer Evo. Now, when you say Evo to a normal person, I'm not sure what they would think of. But myself, being an automotive enthusiast, when someone says Evolution or Evo, the very first thing that comes to my mind is the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. This is the last generation of Lancer Evo that we are behind the wheel of, the Evo 10. First things first, on the outside of the car, the lines and general shape of this car are extremely aggressive, very sharp lines. Honestly, I prefer the look of the Evo 9 a little bit more, but they are very similar in overall size and shape. They're kind of a little bit taller and shorter. It's definitely a sports sedan. It's got the wheelbase, it's got the looks, and if you're just kind of a normal guy driving around, I mean, even the Evo probably doesn't get a second look. Let's talk about tasteful modifications for a second. Now, I'll be the first to admit that when I think about modifying a car, it is very tempting to add power first. But if you're a driving enthusiast and you really want to push your car hard in the twisties, I think the owner of this car, Brian, has done a fantastic job. And honestly, that's kind of one of the main reasons that we chose this car to film today versus some other Evos. It's because stock, the Evo 10 is already a beast. We all know that. Now, this is my first time driving the Evo 10, but what Brian has actually done is he's done Pilot Super Sports all around, which for a lot of people is known as the very best street tire that money can buy for a reasonable price. And then he's also done coilovers and a short shifter. So those three things right there improve the driving experience dramatically. Now, sure, if you really want to take this car kind of, let's say, on the gravel or snow and you need that ground clearance, sure, coilovers might not be the best idea for you. But for Brian, I mean, this is a street car, this is his daily driver. The car looks great, and he's got those minor modifications that just make the car stick even more than it did when it was stock. So now that we're just cruising here, we can take a second and look at the interior of the Evo 10. Now, having just driven a Evo 9 a few weeks ago, I must say the Evo 9's interior is actually a little bit nicer than this car. So looking around, honestly, it's what you would expect from any other Mitsubishi. You know, when you get in some other performance cars, let's say you step from a base 3 Series to an M, you are gonna get a noticeable bump in the interior quality, the materials, and just the overall vibe when you step in the car. The Evo isn't really like that, to be honest. I mean, there's this plastic, it looks cheap. These dials are very generic, just kind of something you would see in your everyday Subaru or Mitsubishi, GM products. It kind of all looks the same. It is very simple, and I think what Mitsubishi is going for here is functionality, and on that note, they've definitely nailed it. I mean, this is a driver's car, a focused driver's car with the ability to carry 5 people. They've nailed that, but in terms of being a really nice place to sit in traffic on a day-to-day basis, I can't say that I'm very impressed. I do, however, think the driver-focused aspects of the interior are definitely really nice. Now, this being an Evo, it does have these absolutely phenomenal Recaros in here. I mean, every time I get into a car, whether the Recaros are stock or aftermarket, there's just nothing better in my opinion. I mean, there are other brands out there, but it seems everyone just kind of goes for Recaros, and that's basically the industry standard, whether it be for a stock performance car like this or an aftermarket seat option. I mean, they're just really great. I'm a cloth seat kind of guy versus leather, and the Evo is definitely a comfortable car in that way. I mean, you do get what you pay for. Basically, all your money when you're buying an Evo is going into the engine and the drivetrain. Now, in terms of power, probably got about 270, 280 to the wheels right now. honestly, around these B roads here in these twisty sections, plenty enough power. You still get that awesome mid-range torque when the turbo spools up. Sure, the power band does actually feel like it dies down a little bit at the end of the power band there. It would be really interesting to look at a dyno graph and see if the power actually does drop off or it basically just flattens out. In most cases, it's probably just flattening out, but either way, the car's plenty enough quick to have a lot of fun. It pulls hard. I'm actually really surprised with the stock exhaust as well. It's definitely bassy enough. You get some feedback. It's not really droney. You're getting actually a lot more noise from the engine, which is good, in my opinion. When you roll down the windows, you hear a little bit of blow off, you hear the turbo spool up, intake. It's a really cool experience, and you can sense the car is working hard for you. It's really pushing all these things around. There's a lot of moving parts involved in this car, and a lot of research and development in making this one of the best driving sports sedans out there in terms of lap times, in terms of driver inputs. And I mean, honestly, it's very disappointing to see Mitsubishi end the Evo. That's really all they have, or that's really all they had. The Eclipse, the last few generations were just completely terrible and ugly, in my opinion, of course. But I think this car looks great. I think, honestly, it's a great send-off for the brand. I think it's a great send-off for this legacy, so to speak, of the Evolution. I mean, Mitsubishi was making this car for a very long time before they discontinued it with this model. Now, in terms of steering feel's great. I would like it to be a little bit heavier when you get into the corners, but in terms of being direct, honestly, the Evo 5 I drove, the Evo 9 I drove, and this car, probably some of the tightest steering racks I've ever felt. And when you're going in twisties like that, that is one of the best characteristics to have in a driver's car. You're not taking your hands off the wheel. It's very, I wouldn't say twitchy, but you can really dart it around without much problem. So as you can see, 4,000. It doesn't really pick up anymore kind of after 5,500. Definitely quick, and you can sense that variable valve timing working for you up in the top end of the rev range. But the main excitement from this car, and like any 4-cylinder turbo car, is the torque punch you get from the turbo, and it's definitely very apparent here. I was worried that the turbo was almost going to feel too small. It's going to spool up too quickly, if that's a thing. I like turbos for the excitement, and that's just not the case. It's really solid, really good feeling car. And even from like 3,000 RPM, spools up nice and quick. The shifter in this car, the short shifter that Brian's put on here, is very impressive. Nice and notchy, really short. Knob is aftermarket too. It's just a lot of fun to drive. A lot of fun to drive. Honestly, I was never really an Evo fan before I started driving them. They're great cars. They never fail to put a smile on your face. They're crazy capable, unbelievably capable. For the average guy who's like, hey, I want a relatively quick sedan, spend 40 grand, get yourself an Evo, Jesus, I mean, that is a lot of car you're getting for the money. I mean, it's a crazy amount of car, especially when you go and put Pilot Super Sports on it. This thing just grips. All-wheel drive is awesome. It's fast, it's comfortable. Damn, the Evo 10 out of 10 in terms of a daily driver that you can take out on your favorite roads on the weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, make sure to subscribe, tell your friends about the channel. Go like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check out roadsandtraveled.net where you can find all stuff Roads Untraveled, as well as, come on you guys.